Influence in sales is all about being able to thread the needle of being able to learn somebody's truth, make them feel safe and comfortable so they share authentic thoughts. And by the way, you want to know the simplest trick to do this?
World-class lessons from the real estate industry's top 1%. Empowering agents to think bigger and do more to create life by design.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Light It Up Podcast. We are super excited about today's guest. We have with us Robby T from Fargo, North Dakota, co-founder of Hatch Coaching. Super excited to spend some time with you this afternoon. We've heard a lot of great things. Never actually been able to connect in person, although we've got a lot of mutual friends and colleagues. So excited to spend some time with you this afternoon. Thanks so much for being here, man.
Dude, John and KIRO, it's a pleasure, and I know a mutual acquaintance is Colton Whitney, and he's such a good dude. So glad that he made the recommendation and got us connected.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I don't want to give him too much credit because he didn't necessarily make the recommendation. I think I just sort of stalked you a little bit in your DMs, slid right in, and then Colton sort of said, yeah, he's a pretty good guy, so you should have him on.
Well, I will give him too much credit. I owe him that.
Fair enough.
Awesome, man.
So let's jump right into it.
Let's jump in. So we like to do this lightning round where we'll hit you with some questions unrelated to real estate.
Ooh, I like
sort of shake things up a little bit, get to know you a little bit better.
I love it.
All right, this is one we have not used before. Okay. Would you rather have a rewind or a pause button on your life?
Oof.
That was a good
rewind one. Or pause? I would say rewind. Where I'm at in life today, there's things that I've done, thanks mama trauma, and trauma in life and things like that I've gone through. I would rather rewind and do things differently with the knowledge I have now. That's what I'd choose. That's a tough one though, man. That's you guys are making my brain think right out of the gate.
But in all fairness, Hatch Coaching wouldn't be so successful if you didn't have that experience. Now you're able to teach people how to get over that.
You're not wrong. I wouldn't take the trauma away. I wouldn't take any of that away. I would take and shorten the mistakes of how long I let that trauma affect me and therefore affect other people.
Love that.
That's what I would change. But yeah, good point.
Yeah. What's the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I've ever received was to simply start reading. One of the things I started doing, I got it from a college professor. So the story behind this, I'm very long-winded, but I think you guys will enjoy it. I was a terrible high school student, just miserable, barely graduated. I actually don't know how I did. I skipped so many classes. Got into college into a transition program, and one of my college professors really urged me to start reading. My joke is 30 pages per day keeps poverty away. And I've read 30 pages every day since I started college, which was back in 2009, 30 pages per day. And the subjects are constantly changing, almost always reading nonfiction. It has undoubtedly been the biggest thing that has allowed me to level up, keep leveling up, and frankly, master new subjects all the dang time.
Yeah.
What are you reading right now?
I just finished a few. One of the best books I've read, actually, just finished The Catalyst by Jonah Berger. I usually read 3 or 4 at a time. Just finished Hacking Darwin as well. That one's about health and the future of health. But y'all, I will reference this book in our podcast today. 1,000,000%.
I'm excited to hear that. Ryan Tracy, he always says, you are the same person you are today in 10 years. The only difference is the books you read and the people you meet. And I wholeheartedly believe in that.
Who had the most influence on you growing up?
This one's going to be cheesy, but I would choose Eric Hatch, my business partner. And I'd say growing up because he's been a part of my world for 9 years now. He was the first person in my interview. I cussed like a sailor. I cried. He has jokingly said by a lot of barometers he shouldn't have hired me. Except I had two people that made really solid recommendations, and I kicked ass in the prior job I did. I used to work political campaigns. And I killed it. But my interview was terrible. But he took a risk on me, has mentored me, and has become my brother in business. So I'd say Eric Hatch.
Awesome. Do you think years from now you'll say that I was your mentor? Before we were business partners?
I always give you props, but you make it so hard to. But so I do it
tough.
behind.
It's
I
tough
do it
love.
behind your back
Just to
more.
be very clear, I would never tell Eric this.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I would never tell him to his face.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
Yeah.
you ruin everything. But then behind, I'm like, yeah, I love the guy. He's a piece of crap. I love him so much.
Tough love, you
Yeah.
know?
That's bro code. You know, you
It's-
just
it
got to
is.
beat the hell out of them in person and then love them behind their back. You know, because that makes total sense. But
Yeah.
Yeah. I realize that is what I do, I guess.
All right, I'm not gonna ask this question, but I will ask my usual. If you could spend a whole day with someone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
All right, this is gonna be really funny because it's gonna be like this boring type answer, I think. But I'm a major fangirl of Warren Buffett, so I would spend time with Warren Buffett, hands down.
That's a good pick.
And just because he's so exclusive, nobody gets time with him. That'd be my one choice right now. That's what I'd choose.
Like it.
As crazy as it is.
I had no idea where you were going to go when you said fangirl. I was like, oh man, this is going to be.
Oh yeah, there's not many people that say they're fangirls about Warren Buffett, but I am.
Well, it's funny because so many people will say like an athlete. Other people will say some sort of like musician. Other
Sure.
people will say like a finance,
Sure.
icon. And then some people will say their grandmother who passed away years ago. So it tells us a lot about what we're working with. So
Yeah.
I know we got a fangirl on our hands though.
Yeah. If you want me to do the noises, I'll do it for you.
All right, let's jump right in. So traditionally, we like to go into like the guests past and like how they got into the industry, this that, and the other. However,
Yeah.
I think given the events that's going on in the industry today, that are more, I would say, there's a lot to talk about and to go into that would be helpful for the listener that we can dive into. One of the things that you're huge on is talking about the transactional agents who were spoiled by market conditions and didn't have to actually adapt and be skillful. Because at that point in time, you buy leads, you show a door, you write an offer, maybe out of 4 or 5 offers, maybe you get that really, really hungry buyer and they get accepted. But that was market conditions, not the individual themselves. Now you're focusing more on the relational aspect of it. Now, not to just finish it at that end, because this is a deeper thing. A lot of agents, they think that sales is by doing one aspect of the business. And the biggest problem is that every agent knows what they need to do, but they fail to implement and take action on those activities to do it because they're so they get tunnel vision.
Yep.
But there's a need to adapt in this market more than ever before that goes unnoticed. And sometimes the people that get the most limelight are the ones that are preaching things that maybe were effective in a different market condition versus what's happening now.
There's a question at the end of this.
Yeah, I love it.
No, because this is just it's such a big thing.
I'm roasting you. I'm jiving.
Brotherly
I'll
love.
just say this. I was doing a role play yesterday and I was doing a role play after the listing presentation, right? Because that's what my coach suggests to do. He's like, you have this whole thing internalized. Like you don't need to role play that anymore. Role play the end part of it.
Sure.
And at the end part of it, I'm like, your decision is based upon 3 things that's important. And I was closing. Yes, yes, yes. I'm like, sign the contract. And my role play partner was just like, he's like, hey man, real quick, like what was important to me about making the move? You didn't relate it to what was important to me. Nothing connected. I was like, I know that, but I didn't connect the dots. Why was I so laser focused on what I think was going to work when there's a world of knowledge that I understand, but I wasn't actually being flexible and adaptable? Long-winded whole situation. Robby, take it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, first off, you teed up a lot for me there, which I appreciate. I'm going to simply name this. I to kind of give some perspective for the listeners. I coach and train a lot of the top real estate teams and top producing agents in the country. And what you just said is spot on. People right now suck, and they suck at getting better, and they have the wrong mindset. There are so many people that thought they were good at real estate because post-COVID, due to all the financial stimulus that happened, crazy interest rates, generational changes, millennials were delaying buying for years, and then COVID changed all that. Due to all the multitude of factors, we saw the craziest, stupidest market. Sharon over at Real, the president of Real, talks about how it was a momentum market, and I'm a little less politically correct, so I call it a fake market. It was an absolute fake market that we will never go back to. And to reference Warren Buffett, he always talks about you don't know who's swimming naked until the tide goes out. Well, the tide went out, and we're seeing a lot of really disturbing images, y'all. people who have literally no ability to influence people. They've lost the skills and they thought they were good at real estate because the market made you good. And that's the biggest pain point about markets like yesteryear, that fake market, is you didn't have to be good. And I really talk about two different analogies that will probably help with this. We were all playing basketball on that little Tykes hoop that our kids have. And y'all, we thought we were MJ. And we ain't shit. And now what's happened is the hoop has been raised back up to 10 feet again. And we're struggling to play basketball. And there's really one of two different things that you can do. You can sit there and do nothing, which a lot of people are doing right now. You can hope, which is a really great thing to have in your life, but a terrible business strategy. Or you can practice and get better and learn to jump higher or adapt and shoot three-pointers like Steph Curry. I don't care. You got to find a way to win. But here's what's funny, is if you were really good in the first place, you don't care about the market getting more difficult. If anything, you're happy about it. Think about this. If I were playing basketball against Michael Jordan on a little Tykes hoop, I'd have a chance of scoring. Just like my kid can score me on it. Now, we raised that hoop up to 10 feet, and now I had to play against MJ. Even today, he would roast me because I'm not good at basketball. All right, I was in high school a bowler, to give perspective. I'm like the most non-athletic dude out there. And which is funny because my brothers are both, one's an offensive lineman, one's a defensive lineman that played college ball. I'm just the smart one, I guess. Anyways, Michael Jordan hated playing basketball in the little Tykes hoop. Why? His skills didn't matter anymore. I, as somebody who values talent and skill, hated the market of the last year and a half because skill didn't matter anymore. Influence did not matter anymore. It was, do you have a pulse? Can you fog a mirror? All right, you got a job. That's literally the game we were in. And y'all, wake the hell up. That's never going to happen again. Mark my words, we will never go back to as crazy a market as we saw back then. We will never go back to it ever again. You will not be able to succeed. So what we're seeing happen is we see people that are doing nothing. They know that they have a skills gap. And I think there's two different types of people in this audience today. We have people, first off, I know the people that listen tend to be better, or they're wanting to get better. I love that. Love that about you all. But there's two types of people. There's those that know what I'm talking about. You can relate to it because you have been in this game prior to the market of COVID, prior to the fake market that I just talked about. For you all, your problem is different than the other group. Your problem is that you had the skills at one point, but you didn't use them for a year and a half, 2 years, and you're rusty as hell. And you have to get back into being good again. You have to change your mindset and you have to start doing it. That whole adage of if you don't use it, you lose it. You can't not go to the gym, or you can't skip out of the gym for 2 years and go back and bench press the same weight. Hell, you skip 2 weeks and you drop 5-10 pounds. All right. It frustrates the hell out of me. Happens to me all the time. And then I got to reset again. That's how lifting weights works. That's how building muscle works. Whether it's this muscle or this muscle, it does not matter. When you don't use it, you lose it. So that's the first group of people. The second group is people that came in just after March of 2020. It's people that came in and all they know is a fake market. And y'all, you're going to have the most difficult time because you don't know any better. You don't have any muscle memory at all. So not only do you not have that muscle, but you don't have that memory of it. You don't even know what it's like. So you don't know where you're going. And my biggest plea to you all is check out our YouTube page, check out our free webinars, or check out people that are actually succeeding. Because you all said earlier, there are way too many coaches preaching old school shit that does not work anymore. The old school Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, the Wolf of Wall Street stuff, even the old school pressure techniques, they don't work, y'all. There's this thing called the internet. People have options. Those things worked, by the way, when there were not options. When the real estate agent that they talked to was their only choice. Well, they can go find an agent in a click of a button, and they can read all your reviews. And if they don't like how you made them feel, guess what they can do? They can rip your whole history down to nothing. It takes, again, I'm going to quote Warren Buffett. Now you know why I chose him. It's not like, oh, he's really rich. I like him a lot. It's Warren Buffett is one of the most brilliant men that I know. And really what it comes down to with all of this is there's so many people that are simply struggling. So many people that are struggling through this. And that's, you got to be doing something to change it. And I just ripped for way too long. So I'm going to flip it over to you guys.
That was powerful.
That was deep. I think that analogy with the wave too is the tide.
I gave two, or I said I'd give two. I always tell people I'm ADDAF, ADD as fuck.
Oh.
But I said I was going to give you two examples. The second example was this that you all can walk away with. We were all fishing in a sea, and we thought we were good at fishing because the fish were jumping into our boat. You didn't have to work hard. You didn't have to put bait on a hook. You didn't have to tie the hook to wire or string. You didn't have to string your rod. You didn't have to even cast the rod. You don't have to do any of that. You don't have to set the hook when you catch the fish. No, you didn't have to do any of that. You literally just had to drive your boat around in the lake and fish would jump into your boat. And y'all, again, it was a fairy tale. It was fake. It was not real. We will never see that again. We've only seen that in real estate for about a year and a half. Yeah. And we'll never see that again. We have to get back to gaining the skills to learn how to do these things. And there's tons and tons and tons of resources for you to go out there and find them. Just make sure you're finding the right coach. Yeah. And people that are talking about, frankly, things, if they're not saying you need to be more empathetic, they're letting you down as a coach. If they're not saying you need to be more curious, they're letting you down as a coach. If they're not saying you need to shut the hell up and listen, they're letting you down as a coach. If they're not talking about how your mind is constantly making assumptions to make sense of this thing we call life, they're letting you down. So many coaches just spit shit that worked 20 years ago, and it's antiquated and no longer works. It's gone. And be very, very careful with that. So anyways, you got to be getting better. If you're in that second group, you've never had to learn how to play the game. The funny thing is real estate is actually an influence game. I always tell people it's not sales, it's influence. And Tony Robbins always says, if you want to influence someone, you need to find out what's already influencing them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you were getting at a little bit earlier, is in your role play, you found out that they wanted to do the things, but when you set the hook or set the appointment, what matters most to humans is not your sales pitch. I always jokingly tell people, leads don't give a shit about you. They don't care about you. They don't care about your numbers. What they care about is what Maya Angelou said, which is how do you make somebody feel? Because logic makes us think and emotion makes us act, and how we feel is an emotion. And we don't do business with people that don't make us feel good and comfortable, and we avoid people who make us uncomfortable. It's really that simple.
So first and foremost, thank you for doing that, because that was good way of prepping this. Right now, you talked about the wave, the people who are unprepared. They're going to be butt naked. Carol Dweck wrote a book called Growth Mindset. And she was talking about the fixed and the growth mindset. Now, in this market, in order to adapt, a lot of people were preaching freedom through building different organizations to leverage different things. And then you feel like there's an opportunity to escape from the mundane grind that's required to do things at a high level. And then you buy into it. But then if your mindset is fixed, you're going to deny the market conditions and the need to adapt. Essentially, going through what you were saying, what would you advise someone who's struggling to accept the reality, and what's like the first steps of recovery?
Holy goodness. I think if you're someone who, first off, I'll name this, you are getting the exact results you should be getting. So I think for the first thing we should name is that if you're not sure of what camp you're in, if you're not getting the results that you want, you're not selling enough homes, if you're not where you're at, you probably need to become more open-minded. And that's the whole point of that book, right? Is the growth mindset is really being open to new ideas, embracing new ideas, and be willing to let go of ideas. And one thing I've learned about learning is, for a lot of people, the problem is not learning something new. It's letting go of old school ideas or old ideas that no longer work or no longer function. And I would say that the first thing, if you have that mindset, what's really cool is it's been shown that anybody can transition from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And the simplest way to do that is to start focus on being open-minded, to start considering new ideas, to expose yourself to new ideas. And I think that the biggest thing that's holding people back is probably ego. A lot of people's ego is like, oh, it used to work, or just habit. This used to work. I'm confused by it. I think what you have to be willing to do is, I'm a firm believer, like we're almost always going through, like, for lack of a better term, rebirths, where we have to be willing to change ourselves to play a different game. And you can be attached to old school ideas. You can be attached to, I used to do this and it used to work. And if you're not getting results, something is clearly missing. Yeah. And it's very, very simple. You have a choice. I always tell people there's no right or wrong. There never is. There's just simply choices and consequences. And you have a choice to become more open-minded, to focus on growing and learning new ideas. And from what I've seen is with that path, there's a lot more positive consequences. People talk about consequences only being negative, but there's positive consequences, which usually means learning new models, learning new things. And what I've seen is that if you get stuck and you're like, no, I don't want to change. If you're stuck doing, if you're that 75-year-old agent who's still doing what you did 30 years ago, and you're unwilling to adapt to the changes that are happening, the consequence almost always is you get left behind. Yeah. Historically, those that are unwilling to go and change get left behind. And it's just choices and consequences, y'all. It's that simple. For me, I love that perspective of you got to be growth-oriented to be willing to grow and adapt to new things.
Yeah. What's the difference, though, between like growth-oriented and losing focus, though? Because I think sometimes, like growing up, well, it's like we grew up in a coaching, like the Mike Ferry coaching program, right?
Yep.
And I think the reason that we both had successful starts to our career was because we only went to the school of Mike Ferry, right?
Yep. Sure. Yeah.
And we weren't that conference junkie that's like, I'm at Tom this week, I'm at Mike next week, I'm at Brian Buffini the following week, right? And you just spend time traveling the world, going to different conferences and never implementing anything.
Yeah.
And I think that made me successful because I wasn't distracting myself with other theories and other schools of thought. But I am 100% in your court in the thought that you have to be growth minded and you have to look at other schools of thought. And I'm almost upset with myself for not being more open-minded in the past. But how do you be open-minded but also not distracted?
Just to give you like a real world example. So John is like we literally had an argument this morning about a certain thing of like changing something. And John's like, we have to be consistent. We have to be consistent. I'm like, bro, we have to adapt to this thing. It's not working. He's like, no, but this is the way it is. This is the way it's going to go. And it's sometimes you find yourself in that place of like, where's the science that proves that this is right or wrong? Because we were taught real estate's a numbers game. But sometimes when you're building a business, there's not a direct science that tells you where you're going. So you're kind of taking it by like trial and error. So how do you know when consistency is not working and you need to adapt? And when you know that adapting is just a distraction from doing the hard work?
I love this question. I always tell all my clients that knowledge without action is pointless. Mm-hmm. And what you were just naming is all the people that go around, they learn things, they implement nothing. I actually think this game is very, very simple. If I were to give anybody like a 1, 2, 3 to go be successful in real estate, it's 1, reach out to people. I don't care which people. You choose what. Everybody has different dialects, right? You can buy PPC leads. You can buy Zillow leads. You can go chase your friends or family. If you have a big sphere, it doesn't matter. Reach out to people and have conversations, whether it's text or on the phone, it doesn't matter, or on Facebook. The North Star of those conversations is not to sell somebody something. That's number 2. The North Star is never to sell somebody something. It's to make them feel seen, heard, and valued. With your friends, family, past clients, it's making sure that they know that they matter to you. Because the reason your past clients and your people don't come back to you is they feel invisible, y'all. The reason paid leads, which is the other thing I've mastered, don't come to you, is they feel pressured. They don't feel safe around you because you're trying to sell them something. I had a conversation on my podcast, the Leads Geeks podcast with Matt McKenzie. And I asked him, what's the biggest thing? Why do people suck at converting leads? And he said, You do these things that make people feel unsafe all the time. You sound salesy. And y'all, what do we do to salespeople? What does an average person do when they are confronted by a salesperson? They run away, right? Or they fight back. Their walls go up. Our job, when we're talking to leads or past clients and North Stars, to make people feel comfortable, seen, heard, valued. This is just psychology 101. And what's funny about this is none of us work in sales. I'll just name this, right? Do either of you guys build homes and sell homes? Nope, right? If you build homes and sell them, you're the only salespeople in real estate because you're selling a product. We are in the service industry. And what we're doing is we're providing a service. And my North Star, number 3, is my job is to find out their stories, what they want, what is already influencing them, and speak truth about the options to reflect truth back to them if I see incongruences, inconsistencies. What I know about human beings is, y'all, we are complicated. Mm-hmm. What I know is that when people are buying and selling, it never involves one person. It usually involves multiple people, and multiple people have differences of opinions. And my job is to play counselor and find the middle ground for them that they can both live with. My job is not to sell them anything. My job is to help them make the best decision for themselves and their families. This is how you build a business, one that converts people the most often on the front end and helps you get repeat business because people loved working with you. The reality is nobody wants to work with the salesperson that is trying to sell them something. People are afraid of you. There's books, there's science that shows this. And if your people that you're following aren't referencing science and studies, like for me, I will always check the back of a book. And I'm going to go look and see how many notes are in there because I want them referencing smarter people than I am. And if your coaches and your people aren't referencing smart people, if they're just simply saying, well, this worked for me once, that's silly. But here's what I will say. There's far too many of you that know everything. You know a lot of these things. Hell, y'all, I read books a lot of times to simply remind me what's already in my mind. The biggest thing, though, is it's not knowing it that matters. It is implementing it. It's taking action. It is doing something. Somebody who is so good at listening and having conversations and influencing people, if they never pick up the phone, they don't do anything, if they're just sitting there scared, never going to work. If you have somebody who's simply going to be willing to do the work, you will find results. It is a numbers game, y'all, by the way. It simply is. It's just your conversion rates go up. You become more leveraged. You get better results. Therefore, you have to work less to make more. So the numbers become more in your favor when you have better strategies. And y'all, here's the thing. I have coached, at this point, thousands of people directly over the last 8 years. I have never had one person come back and say, Robbie, your strategy sucked, of listening more, being more empathetic, because let's just be real. The things we've been taught is follow the script, say these things, you'll sell homes. I teach people to take your scripts, throw them out the window, burn them, because they usually don't do you any good. But what's good about scripts is it gives people the comfort to actually do something. I understand that 100%, but it's not optimal. It is nowhere near optimal. Almost always what you need is to throw the script out the window and still make the calls and be more empathetic, do more listening, be more open-ended with your questions, use tell me more far more often, and stop making assumptions. So I think to answer your question, for me, it's always, I'm a numbers guy, I'm a math guy, so I look at split testing. Go take 2 strategies and have somebody make 100 phone calls, one where somebody is very scripted, very salesy, and then go take Matt McKenzie, who essentially was my protege. Matt McKenzie will outperform, outconvert. The best people that I've taught will outperform, outconvert 3, 4, 5 times more often compared to the other person. So that's what I would say is knowledge without action is pointless, y'all. Or as my some of my coaching clients know intimately, knowledge without action is fucking pointless. But I'm a little more moody.
That's actually a very helpful idea, and that's the resolution we came to after an hour of arguing about different perspectives of consistency versus like adapting. The one thing that Hatch Coaching is known for, just from our exposure to it for a short period of time, really, and part of it was Colton sharing things that he took away. For you to be able to be a good influencer, you first have to be a good leader. And there's equities in life that you need to be balanced in to be able to do that professionally. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I'll simply say I see a lot of people that produce a lot, sell a lot of homes, but they treat their people really, really poorly. They view their humans on their teams as expendable, and that's their mindset. And really by leadership, what we mean is servant leadership, which is I'm going to do everything I can to fight for these people. And really leadership is people don't work for you, you work for them. And Eric wrote a whole book about this called Play for the Person Next to You. What I'll simply name about leadership is balance is the wrong way to put it. Like really wealthy people that I know are really great leaders. They have wealth financially, they have wealth in terms of time. And what we've seen is far too many people, you can go really, really fast by yourself, but you can't go far by yourself. And for example, me still being in business with Eric is because he still leads me to this day. He calls me on my blind spots, and leadership is influence, right? Whether we call it leadership, influence, it doesn't really matter. And influence is two different things. This is what I would say. Leadership or influence is, and by the way, lead conversion, same thing. You got to be leading people. You got to be leading your clients. Influence and leadership is the combination, in my opinion, of being able to learn someone's truth. What is their North Star? What are they running towards? What do they want to achieve or avoid? What is the problem they're trying to solve? So you have to become intimate with that. You have to see it clearly, and it's always emotional, right? Human beings are either running towards something or running away from something. That's just how we operate as humans. So you have to be intimate with that. Leadership and influence is being intimate with that. So let's say, John, you report to me. I need to know, what the heck are you trying to do this year? What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? What are your pain points? What's holding you back? I got to be intimate with those things. And then secondly, the other big piece, and this is where people have failed, is you also have to be a truth teller. Meaning you got to be willing to tell someone you're falling behind, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You have to be willing to do both. It is the intersection. Great leadership and influence is the intersection of being able to learn truth and speak truth.
Yeah.
What I've seen is most people are really, really good at one or the other. We're really, really good at getting people to open up, but we will not ever be a truth teller because we're afraid to. We don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. And the problem, you know what that is? Somebody who's really, really good at learning truth but won't speak truth back to reflect it. That's what I call the enabler. They're enabling bad decisions, enabling bad behavior. On the other hand, the person that just speaks truth without learning truth first, you know what we call that person?
Ignorant.
An asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, ignorant is a great way to put it, but an asshole. Like, who is this person? They don't know shit about me. They could be right. They could be 100% right. And right now, by the way, in real estate, this is one of the biggest mistakes I see people making. Is when a lead says, I want to wait because the market's too crazy, because of the R word, recession, right? Because of, I want to wait till the market crashes. 2007, 2008 is coming. You try debating people and you don't come across the way you think you are. You come across as an asshole because they don't trust you yet.
Yeah.
And what I've taught Colton's whole team and Colton, and they're doing this at a really, really high level, is when somebody gives you a fear-based objection or a soft no, the way you handle that's very simple. You acknowledge their answer because people need to feel heard. And acknowledge doesn't mean you repeat it or agree with it. It simply means you say something like, okay, I hear you, or thanks for sharing that, or I hear that perspective. It's just saying, hey, I see it. And then what you do is phase two, after you acknowledge it, is you ask another motivation themed question. So if John's like, yeah, we're thinking about getting a bigger home, but there is no way we're going to do it with the market today. Interest rates are too crazy. We're going to wait for the things to calm down a little bit. I'm going to say something like, okay, I totally hear you, but help me understand why you were looking to get into a bigger home in the first place. Mm-hmm. This is what great lead converters have done, is they follow this formula. It's very simple. Acknowledge it, and then ask another motivation themed question. But here's what I've noticed about great lead converters is they focus on the opportunity, not on the resistance.
Yep. They come from curiosity.
They come from curiosity, right? So in this case, this is what great leaders do, is we don't focus on the opportunity, although we might go there later. We might talk about that later. There's no doubt about it. We might get to it at some point, but I'm going to focus on the opportunity at first. Where do you want to be going if I'm leading somebody? If somebody wants to potentially buy a home, well, what's the pain point? What's causing you to potentially want to get out of your home?
Yeah.
Influence in sales is all about being able to thread the needle of being able to learn somebody's truth, make them feel safe and comfortable so they share authentic thoughts. And by the way, you want to know the simplest trick to do this?
Please.
Give people an option to say no. Chris Voss wrote about this extensively in his book, Never Split the Difference, which is all about how do you negotiate with terrorists? How do you negotiate with people that are literally threatening to kill other people or themselves?
Yeah.
And what you have to do is you have to give people options. And when we don't give people an option to say no, they're a hell of a lot more likely to say no. Yeah. That's the irony of it. Giving somebody an option to say no makes it more likely that they're potentially going to say yes.
Give us an example of that.
All right. So here's the first question I always ask leads. All right. Is, hey, I just saw you were checking out some homes on one of our websites, and I wanted to see if you're just looking for fun, which is no, or thinking about making a move sometime in the future. What we've seen is if we just ask, hey, are you thinking about making a move in the future? When we don't put in that first option about looking for fun, we get more responses that are actually negative. We get more responses that are more derogatory. Not interested, take me off your list. Resistance goes up when people don't feel like they have an option to say no. Here's another really good example. One of my texts kind of went viral. It's one of the things that we do at Hatch Coaching is we have text messaging products that people can use in Sierra, Chime, and if you're using Follow Up Boss as well, because writing your own copy for your messages to your leads sucks. I don't wish it upon my worst enemy, so I do it for people. Anyways, but one of the texts I came up with is called the aliens text. So this will give you a really good example. These are people that almost always have ghosted us. We've sent many, many messages to. We've heard nothing from. Right? We've called, texted, nothing.
Can I just, right before you say this, Jeremy Miner gave an example of this, but this is where it's like.
Do you know Jeremy Miner?
Yes. Yep. It sounds stupid as shit as I say it. I tell everybody that. But we sent a message saying something like, hey, John, saw that, or I've reached out many times and I haven't heard anything back. This tells me one of three things. Number one is you're no longer interested in making a move. Number two is you're interested, but you haven't had time to respond. Or number three, you've been abducted by aliens. In that case, let me know, and I'll reach out to NASA or Elon Musk to rescue you. And it sounds so stupid. I'm a high D, and I'm like, that's the dumbest thing ever. But it gets stupid great response rates.
Yeah.
And I think what it does, two things. One is it humanizes you, but two, we're giving somebody an option to say no. And what's really ironic, the most common response, hands down, is number two. All the time.
Too busy.
Yep, absolutely. Been too busy to respond. People apologize to you. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I haven't responded. I've been so busy, blah, 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 blah. So the point behind this is great leadership, to tie this together, great influence is, for me, it's letting go of the attachment to the outcome. I don't need somebody to buy a home with me. Like that's scarcity. I don't need somebody to come buy a home with me. It's, I want to be a great leader. I want to help influence people. And really what that comes down to is I need to learn somebody's truth of what they want. And then I want to help them get it. And I'll speak truth about it all day long. I'll name, once you've heard somebody's truth, I can name, hey, I'm really confused by this because you've said you want this, but it conflicts with this. Help me understand what matters most to you. Yeah. We need to spend more time clarifying what people mean. And I'll end on one simple thought here. We as humans make a ton of assumptions about what people are saying to us all day long. A really simple example of this is when people hear somebody say they're looking to get a bigger home because their family's growing. Our mind hears that a baby's on the way. That's just what people's brains interpret, because most of the time that's true, 80% of the time. Our brains hear that, but what's really funny is they never said that. And what I've learned is we consistently need to be asking ourselves, what does that actually mean? And when you slow down and recognize, you'll start seeing gaps where your definition is being projected onto their answer.
Right.
And that's the biggest problem in this world, because now, like, the biggest reason people suck at real estate is rarely effort. It is they suck ass at communicating. And communication is not you suck ass at listening or talking. It's you suck ass at listening. You don't know what somebody is saying, so you make assumptions. So then you hear someone saying, look, they're looking to get a bigger home because a baby's on the way, and then you act accordingly.
Right.
And here's the damn problem is when people say that their family is growing, that can mean a multitude of things. Here's the stuff I've heard. It can mean a baby's on the way. It can mean twins is on the way. It can mean triplets is on the way. These are all firsthand things I've heard.
Could mean your mother-in-law's moving into the basement.
It can mean mother-in-law's moving in because father-in-law just died.
Yeah.
And y'all, I was the person. I talk about how I was the person, boots on the ground, that did this and made these mistakes. And here's what happened was I heard somebody say once, I'm not the smartest person, but I learned from my mistakes, y'all. And what I learned was when somebody said their family was growing, I once said, oh, congratulations. And one of those people was mother-in-law moving in because father-in-law just died. I'm now the asshole who congratulates someone and their father-in-law passing away.
Yeah.
Did I mean to do that? No. Was it all intentional? No. Am I a bad person? No. My mind made a very simple assumption, which we all do. And we have to be so careful with other people. Then you layer into the fact that so much that is going on in the world. People are cut from different cloth. They have different political beliefs. We have different meanings, different upbringings. People have different wealth, different money. One person's big home is another person's tiny home. That's just the world we're in.
Yeah.
We have to really slow down to make sure we're understanding not what we think the definition of what somebody is saying is. We have to slow down and make sure we're no longer assuming and we're confirming what they're saying is what they're saying. It's one of the biggest things that we have to change.
And Robby, just one last question for you.
Yeah, of course.
Right now, with everything that's going on, with the attention spans shrinking, and essentially, like, if we're not getting a response immediately from someone, we grow impatient. Then we draw our own assessment of what they're thinking by not responding or whatever the case it is. And that's the reticular activator system that's telling them, like, oh, you're focusing on the negative and you're seeing more of it in the reactions in the conversion world.
Yep.
What should people for their RAS be focusing on now more than ever before as this market changes?
You got to build a moat around your mind. You got to go back to the old school basics. You got to keep the bad guys out. You got to be really, really focused on starting every morning with a mantra. During times like this of tough change, when things are difficult, when you're not getting, I mean, I saw my income dip, y'all, 30%. That's not fun. I've seen my income dip once, 75%. It sucks. You got to be telling yourself the stories you want to live by. And our brains, the RAS, what it does is our brain's a filter. The second big thing I would just name about the leads not responding to you is we need to recognize that the number one reason people don't respond to you is because they're human. They get busy, notifications, they don't respond to your texts.
Yep.
Give people an option, let them know and be like, hey, the biggest thing you need to be doing is nudging people, right? Bumping people. It's what you do with your friends or family. I guarantee between the two of you, you've texted each other and one of you ghosted each other. Don't be afraid. Humans are humans. They ghost each other. So those would be the two thoughts I'd give you.
Dude,
Robby,
thank you so much, man.
Of
If
course,
anybody
guys.
wants to reach out and connect with you, collaborate with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Robby T, real Robby T, REAL, ROBBYT on Instagram or robbyt@hatchcoaching.com. Either would work well, man.
Incredible. Thank you so much, man.
Love you guys. This was fun.